I've been piecing together what happened that night, and I think this dream is the final piece of the puzzle. Please, I've asked you 100 times, but this time I need you to actually believe me. I need you for this. Today on the Comic Book Report, Stargazer by Anthony Cleveland and Antonio Fuso from Madcave Studios. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we are back in the world of Madcave Studios, taking a look at this standalone trade paperback collection, Stargazer. Admittedly, I was captivated by the premise of it. Who doesn't like a fun alien abduction kind of narrative? Suffice it to say, I was absolutely ecstatic when our contacts over at Madcave sent over this review copy in exchange for this honest review. So a huge thank you to them over there for sending this over. I can't wait to talk to you about it today. Before we dive into today's collection though, as always I would also like to shout out our channel sponsor, Panel Bound Comics. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link to their site in this video's description, and if you see anything on that site you like, you can even use my discount code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's one of the best ways to continue to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's trade paperback review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume are written by Anthony Cleveland, with art by Antonio Fuso. The issues in this volume were published by Madcave Studios beginning in 2020. As far as what this edition collects, it includes Stargazer, issues 1 through 6. And finally, this is a standard size trade paperback collection with nice glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 160 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look to the front cover of today's trade paperback collection. Of course, we have some great ornate, warm-colored art here on the front with some of our central cast of characters. At the top of the cover, of course, we have the title of the work in that stylized font, Stargazer. We have some of the creators listed below that, and then on the bottom corner, of course, we have the Madcave Studios logo. Overall, I really did like this cover. I thought it was cool that it was a bit panelized in a way. You don't always see that. As we transition to the spine, of course, we have the Madcave logo up top, followed by the title of the work again, along with the creators. Now, we don't have any volume number or anything. As I mentioned, this is a standalone collection. As far as the color work for the spine, we have the Madcave logo in like a field of white, and then the rest of the spine just takes the colors from the front, which I really like. There's obviously a lot of nuance and layer to this. We have a lot of warmer kind of pinks and reds and some blacks. Overall, again, really striking spine. We have some white text for the majority of it. And on the back of the collection, we retain much of what we saw on the front. We have that kind of panelization. We have a lot of the colors kind of spread across. In fact, this might be a bit of a wraparound. We have the title again up top, a blurb about the collection, what this edition includes, like a review of the collection, the Madcave logo, pricing information, and things of that sort. Overall, I was really impressed by the exteriors of this book. I thought we got a lot of art that was definitely indicative of a lot of the style we could see inside of it, and overall it had all the right details. And speaking of details, let's take a look at this book's binding. I always like to show this facet of a collection, especially for all you prospective collectors out there. As I mentioned at the top, this is a glued binding. You can see here the pages don't always lay down perfectly flat, and there's a little bit of gutter loss, but really nothing too critical, a pretty standard, straightforward binding. And as always, you'll be able to see the binding in greater detail as I flip through the collection. Okay, and without further ado, let's go ahead and make our way into the collection proper. We have a title page, publication information page, we have a creator kind of breakdown page, credit page, and then before too long we go right into part 1, followed by the issue cover, and we're off to the races. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, this is a 6-issue complete series. I really liked that aspect of it because you can absolutely read this paperback as essentially a graphic novel. I know these issues came out individually, individually, I think by month, but I love that we have it all collected here. You get a full story, beginning, middle, and end, full stop. And I think every so often, a comic read like this is just really gratifying, and that's absolutely what I had here with Stargazer. Now, this is the second alien-based story I've read rather recently. The other book, of course, was the Blue Book Library Edition by James Tynion IV and Michael Avon Oeming from Dark Horse. I did review that book recently on the channel if you're interested, but clearly I'm going for a bit of a theme here. But yeah, Stargazer I went into fairly blind. I saw some reviewer compare it to something like Stranger Things, but with aliens, and I thought that that was kind of a fascinating concept. Anything that has kind of a coming-of-age aspect melded with a kind of paranormal or supernatural aspect, I think is just a really ripe ground for storytelling and conflict, and certainly can be engaging. And that's really what we have here for Stargazer. So let me go ahead and set the scene for those interested. Essentially, this story begins with a kind of paranormal or odd happening. I think a research group finds a whale in the midst of a desert or something like that. But before too long, we do meet our central cast of characters, and at the time, we really have this great flashback sequence of them all, maybe preteen or teenagers. It's a group of mostly girls and one of the girls' younger brother, who is a bit socially awkward and is fixated with kind of the strange or unusual. And they're all out one night, and before too long, it's kind of insinuated that the younger brother gets abducted by aliens, and the rest of them are involved with this kind of encounter. But after this event, pretty much immediately after, the brother falls off a water tower and is pretty grievously injured. We flash forward at one point to see what happened after that. We have the kids, or these young girls, kind of saying maybe they were drugged or something strange happened there. But we fast forward to the present day now, and everyone is of age. They've been adults for some time. We think that this main girl had some of her family that she lost in a horrible car accident of some kind. She kind of has a lot of repressed trauma. The younger brother is a firm believer in aliens. He goes on kind of UFO-based podcasts, and he's always trying to get his sister to see what really happened to them as children. But at this point, she really feels like it's hurting her brother. She firmly doesn't believe it, and she's on the border of sending her brother into kind of an assisted living facility. And it's really at this point in time that the brother has an incident, an accident of sorts. He's hospitalized, and then even within the hospital, there's kind of a weird abduction situation that happens, a flash of light, and ultimately the sister is left investigating what happened to her brother both now and in their shared past. Along the way, she comes across this podcaster who does a lot of these kind of UFO alien-based truther kind of interviews and things. Her brother was involved with this podcast station, or this show, I should say, and left like a message for the sister, and she's trying to uncover what happened. She does get a letter from her now missing brother, and it basically kind of invites her to reach out to these other girls that were involved the day of this initial UFO encounter. From here, we get kind of a strange sequence of events where there's sort of a psychic shared dreamscape or memory between these young women that ultimately all kind of draw and pull them back together. We go back to their conscious waking lives, and all of them agree to meet up. And when they are together, we just have strange happening upon strange happening. It's not before long that we have these really interesting clandestine groups or law enforcement agencies trying to track them down. They uncover this woman that has some deeper ties to these sort of alien visitors, and ultimately the final act of this is a full-on close encounter of the third kind, I believe they're called, but we basically have an alien appearance. We have some revelations about the past for our central characters, what really happened, her younger brother's tie to what happened, and how these aliens are maybe not as malevolent as she once thought, or at least not all of them. And it becomes the good alien and them trying to fend off the forces of these bad aliens and what they mean to do to the planet. And yeah, it's a really stunning final act. I really like that we got some payoff for some of the setup with the flashbacks, both the horrible car accident I mentioned and also that initial encounter. I thought it was a really interesting way to see this kind of coming-of-age story, this generational sort of trauma they were dealing with, or at least childhood trauma, I should say. And yeah, I thought it was a really fun way to also interweave an alien abduction, alien narrative, and I just thought that the final act was pretty stunning. I thought the artwork throughout this collection was really gripping, stylized and detailed. It reminds me a bit of like Jock. I don't know what aspects of it really remind me of that, but I mean it in a complimentary sense. I think the character models are all rich and detailed. There's a sharpness to a lot of the line work here, and I think that the coloring is just really modern, a bit abstract, and it's just really attention getting. It's very poppy, it's vibrant, it's captivating, and I think it really suited this subject and this storytelling material in general. I think the art and writing together made this piece extremely engaging, compelling certainly, and I think to have a one and done story like this, particularly for fans of alien stories or alien abduction kinds of narratives, I think that this is one you could add to the list that is maybe off the beaten path for some. I had personally never really heard about this work until I was looking through Mad Cave's catalog and I stumbled across it, and then I was just really eager to see what it was all about. Of course, I did leave out some of the plot details. There's more twists and turns and nuance than I've even explored here thus far. After the final big climax, we have kind of a goodbye between brother and sister as the brother has to sort of move on or pass, and it is kind of heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, however you want to say that, but there is a bit of closure, and you feel like you kind of go full circle with these characters in a lot of meaningful ways. Again, I think the storyline is gripping, the characters were really well crafted, I thought, and the fact that we were able to cover all this ground in just 6 issues without feeling overrushed, I think was a real commendation to this whole book. I thought it was really a great read. I was thoroughly entertained from beginning to end. At the end of the collection, we have a couple of extras, pretty much just variant covers, a little couple pieces of art, and then some solicitations for some other Mad Cave works. But that really is all there is to Stargazer, this trade paperback collection from Mad Cave Studios. Again, I thought that this was an absolute delight. I went in relatively just blank. I didn't really know what to expect other than a little bit of the premise and some basic reviews I'd seen. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's one I could recommend for those seeking out an indie read, particularly if subject matter of this kind is up your alley. Anyway, all that's left to do now is give it a grade. For this gripping, atmospheric sci-fi story, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Stargazer by Anthony Cleveland and Antonio Fuso from Mad Cave Studios a B. I would certainly consider this an above average read and a fantastic example of a one and done graphic novel kind of collection. Overall, I was very pleased with it. I thought the characters were rich, the artwork is gorgeous, and it's one I just don't really hear enough people talking about. I am curious though, now that you've seen this review, would you like to read Stargazer? Have you read it? Have you read other alien-based comics that you could recommend? Let me know all of that and more in the comments section. Again, a huge thank you to those at Mad Cave Studios for sending over this review copy in exchange for this review, and as always, to all of you for taking this journey right along with me. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, those comments we talked about, and maybe check out another one of my videos on your way out. Thanks everyone, bye.